Did a campaign, and that was very challenging because there were 22,000 workers and 19 unions who were saying over our dead bodies. And that was the last year. After that, there was a fight, 10 chilies was gone. Yeah. There are 2 brands, in fact, of Hemas that we built from scratch. Sanath swam against Julian and played tennis against Rohani Silva. It's all about advertising and why people hate advertising. Right. Jerry Della Femina said it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on, right?
Hello and welcome to this podcast, Good Mad Days. And through this podcast, we are going to connect with people who are and also who were connected to advertising. And we are going to talk about the Good Mad Days, which was the glory days, and how advertising created a leap in Sri Lanka, as well as how in other countries, the impact of advertising, how it came into the businesses. So today, for our first discussion or the inaugural podcast of Good Mad Days, we have got a veteran who has started his career, and he's going to talk about his career, how he got into advertising. But he has worked in advertising, created agencies, championed agencies, built brands, and not only that, even also championed industry bodies in the country. He is none other than Nimal Gunewardena. Nimal, first of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining our podcast. So this is an idea, in fact, came to me sometime back when we were having chit-chats. We thought, why not we do like a thing where we go and put these videos on YouTube? At least
share
people can.
Some of the...
Of course, I mean, these are the stories that everyone, whoever who's interested in advertising should know. How you got into advertising?
So my advertising career is now half a century, 50 years, right? Ago I started in advertising in 1974, right? And before that, I had a background in music and theatre and the arts, which obviously lent itself to advertising. I was doing various things, writing music, doing theatre, and so on. Didn't know so much about advertising at that time in the 70s, early 70s. There were only a few agencies, if at all. And I wanted to do architecture, in fact, right? Because it was a design related thing, but I had in between gone off to the States for a year, right, and lived as an exchange student. So when I came back, it was difficult for me to compete with my colleagues who had been studying and got into A-levels, as you know, has been very competitive. So I didn't quite get the marks to go to university here, to Moratuwa. That's the only place that had architecture. But I was then applying to the US, and I got a place in a top US architecture university called Cornell. Okay. But unfortunately, I didn't have the money to go to Cornell, so I had to abandon that idea. So then it was suggested, my mum had passed away by then, very young. And my dad said there are a couple of my colleagues, friends, who are working at a place called Dialvis Advertising. Dialvis Advertising was owned by Dr. Anandathissa Dialvis, who was in fact a former JWT head in its first incarnation in Sri Lanka in the 1960s.
The JWT we had in the past, but it was before that.
Before that. Right, in the 60s, the JWT first was there in the 1960s. Right. And I think he had worked with even Reggie Kandappa, and then he Then he became a minister in the UNP government, Minister of Information. So he was all about information. And then once he left politics, he started this agency called Dialvis Advertising.
That was after politics?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was a Sinhala, he was a sort of Sinhala advertising guru. So it was a nice place for me to join. And I joined as a creative, as a...
Any memories that you have with Dr. Ananthi service?
Yeah. The thing is, you have to remember that 1970s, television had, early 70s, television hadn't come.
Yeah.
Neither was there internet, no social media, no AI. So it was a totally different era where the advertising mainstream media were only radio and print. And print also was black and white, mainly black and white advertising, right? So in that, you had to be, it was a challenging thing. Your skills had to be very good in terms of your writing, your copywriting, your design. And I jumped into that and into broadcast. So that's where I...
So you started with creative or servicing?
I started with creative because I was a creative at heart. In the creative department, writing and sort of designing a bit and so on. And then I got involved in account management because I used to go and sell the stuff as well. So I quietly moved into account management.
In 1970s, what was the prime medium? Was it radio? Was it...
It was both print, you know, as I said, black and white print. The only color things were brochures or POS or whatever, and radio. Even radio was with spool tapes. These are tape recorders which have magnetic tape, right? Spool tapes. Then ads were done, headlines were done in something called letraset. It was a transfer. So unlike here you type and this thing, all those things were not there. You got your type on block print. A printer printed in block and you cut and paste line by line your body copy.
Okay, so probably, you know, if at all, if one of the Gen Z people like even Kavin who's helping us with the video, like even they, it's better, like they obviously they would have heard that.
They
so
need
will
to
you explain how the process really worked?
So it's advertising was the same. You know, you responded to a creative brief. You know, I mean, you didn't have the formal briefs that you had today, but you took a brief from the client and you discussed it within the agency, and you came up with your creative director. We had at Dialvis at the time a London-trained creative director, Sri Lankan. He had been involved with the Ceylon tea brand there in London as well, and his wife Srikanta De Silva and his wife Srimati De Silva, she was a researcher. So both of them worked at the agency together, right? And then we had a couple of other people, well-known people, Ishan Baha, who was of the Jetliners fame, and Lucky Dias, who became a film star after that.
So he also started.
So they were all in the same agency. So I used to tease Ishan and say, look, as a schoolboy, I used to come and watch you singing.
Now Ishan Baha has also written a lot of books
on music and so on. And
So now that connects with something now, Nimal, now 1970s somewhere, like I think that was a couple of decades after this all Madison Avenue boom in US. So I think it's a time that probably Sri Lanka also got exposed to a little bit of the advertising culture. But now in 70s, comparatively compared to US, in Sri Lanka, like whether we had like a marketing oriented culture in the country, or was it like very traditional?
There were a couple of companies. I worked at, I started at Dialvis, then I joined what was Thomson Associates, because JWT had the first incarnation had changed to, and they had
And
gone.
were the
and
founders of
Thomson Associates was Ranjit Jayasuriya and Renuka's mother, Shirani Rubera, and Keith's father, Anand Vijay Surya. So I worked with three of them, again veterans. And after that, I joined the client. I joined Reckitt and Coleman.
Okay.
Reckitt and Coleman of Ceylon Limited, as it was called. And the chairman was Lalit Dimel. Lalit was a Cambridge scholar, and he was on the board in the UK, but he was also the Ceylon company chairman. Yeah.
So you were heading marketing there.
I joined as a brand manager and worked myself up. I worked there 10 years, in fact. And in between, I went to the US to work for a couple of years. And I came back to Reckitt's and worked a full 10 years, ending up as marketing director and on the board there. So, and after that, I decided to start my own agency.
Okay.
No, actually, I decided to join JWT.
That was the JWT, that is original.
The one that started in the late 70s. So I couldn't join it then because I was in the States. Late 70s, I was in the States. I think they started around 78 or 79.
Yeah.
And then, so when I came back, it was, I couldn't. So I joined Reckitt's, worked there, and then again, when the opportunity came up in 1990, in fact, so after working 10 years, joined JWT,
as
worked there as CEO, as managing director, and then taking over from Lilamani. And then after 3 years, 3 very fruitful and profitable years, I managed the process to allow JWT to acquire the agency, which was formerly held by Hindustan Thompson and Maharajas. So Maharajas agreed to sell out, and then Hindustan Thompson also handed over their shares to JWT. That's when JWT owned 100%. And then I thought that was a nice turning point. I went to my regional head called Alan Fannington and said, I think it's time to move. It's a turning point. And so he asked what I was going to do, and I said, well, I haven't decided, but because I had the opportunity to go back to Reckitt's, but I didn't think it was a good idea going back. And I got an offer to start my own agency with the assurance of business from the Stassen Group. So I started in 1993, I started that agency called Strategic Alliance. And in year 1, Bates, we tied up with Bates. So that was a great thing to tie up with a multinational, because when Bates came, and I wasn't even in the ring. They were looking at some other agencies, and I knew the head at BAT or Ceylon Tobacco, Neville Pereira, who was the marketing director then. And I told Neville, could you give me half an hour with them, right? So we got them in, the Bates guy from UK and the BAT guy called Joe Lim. They came for half an hour, they stayed for 2 hours, and I got the Bates agency.
So this Bates, was it a part of WPP by then? Or
no, not at that time. I think WPP bought into it much later.
Bates was also one of the primary agencies, right?
Bates was then owned by Saatchi and Saatchi.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So it was part of the Saatchi group.
Okay. So Nimal, with that, when you started with, became a agency head of your own agency, it's like different to a agency head of a multinational or something. You have the freedom to build cultures, build something that whatever you like to do.
there were certain things I didn't like at JWT and some of the cultures.
That's how it is anyway.
Yeah. So I said I'm going to do something in my own image, my own values.
I think that's when I was actually reading this book, Mark Tungett's Adland. It was like the whole advertising history, I think up to 2002 or wherever. But what we see is that's how agencies were built up.
Yeah.
People for certain reasons that they identified opportunities or they figured, okay, we can do something better.
Sure.
So that actually worked.
Yes.
And what do you think, like in an agency, Nimal, like for you, what's the most crucial part of it? Whether it's creative, whether it's strategy, or whether it's services?
It's if you come to think of it, it is creative is important because you have to come up with ideas, but creative backed by strategy. So it's creative without strategy becomes art. Creative with strategy is advertising, right? So the main thing that clients want us to do is to help solve their marketing or communication problems, right? So without strategy, you can't just do a creative, right? So strategy is vital in a problem solving. So to define the problem and go deep into the problem, and then you come up with an idea that's aligned with the strategy.
So I think very recently, somewhere, I don't remember where exactly, but in one of the videos of Piyush Pandey, he's mentioning that, so we are not pure artists. We are commercial artists. We were contracted by a client for a business purpose.
Sure,
so I think that is where even I see sometimes in today's context, where most of the creatives try to do certain things in a creative aspect, but it's not really solving the business problem.
Yeah, because then you might work, might not work, and you don't know, you're not sure. If you have a strategy behind your creative, then you know that you have put it on a defined path,
So, what are, like, let's say in your time at either Bates or even the previous agencies, or what were the key campaigns that you're really proud of and you wanted to talk about?
Well, one campaign that won campaign of the year, and I think about 6 other awards, and which was a big thing. That was the last year of the Chili's in 2008, right? And
was it 2008? No, I think Chili's 2009 also Chili's happened.
No, I think 2008. 8 or 9, but I think it was 8, and they had all these foreign judges for the first time, I think, and so we won big that year, and that was the last year. After that, there was a fight and Chili's was gone. So people didn't agree, again between marketing and creative, and I told Slim, I said, you all do something like Ep1 because you're more interested in effectiveness, and the ad industry is interested in creativity.
I think
so that's how it's sort of this thing. So I was involved in the industries as well. So I was the past president of Slim, and
that was what was the year?
The same year I took over JWT, 1990. Right, 1990 I became president of Slim, and more recently we finally put together a PR association of Sri Lanka, and
even Forays, the
new Forays also had a fight, and I brought Forays together in 1999.
So from there on, I think the current Forays
are happening. Earlier they were there together, and then after 1990 or thereabouts. So this is the thing. Ad industry gets very competitive, to be honest. And so I was able to bring everybody back, and I said, let's forget the things that bother us, and let's find the shared values and come together. And we did in 1999, and
And it still is continuing.
yeah, that's the forays.
Yes. So in fact, okay. So at Chile, like you did mention about the campaign.
Yeah, so Hutch was one.
Okay.
Then lot of the other campaigns that gave
Any like anything that you can like tell us about the campaign? What was the idea? Whatever. Do you remember the campaign?
The campaign was based on the fact that it mattered to where you were going to be. So it didn't have to be versus dialogue, the big
Okay.
one at that point, who said, "Oh, we are everywhere and we have towers here, there, and everywhere." We said, "No, you. So long as Hutch is there in your Gaman Maga, that's all that matters. Why do you have to, it was a very nice campaign with. This was an animated campaign which showed
Exactly. That it goes
where you went.
Yeah, it goes everywhere and.
I normally go to work and back, and then on the weekend I go to see my mother in Kandy or something. So
I think I remember, because I think Harendra showed that in one of the forays boot camps.
Right.
It's again on like he mentioned. I'm not too sure whether whether we have mentioned the agency or not, but I think in terms of the craft. So I think he said like something, the extra effort that was done by Odlo, I guess, who has done the animation.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Yes. It was animation was a key part of that.
And
it was totally based on illustrating where you went.
It shows that it goes here, there, and then again come back home.
Yeah.
And I think Podimalli and Shutimalli has done the voicing for that. And they have in fact used their own tonality.
Right.
Done it.
It was very nicely done in Sinhala.
Yes. So anything else, like any other campaigns?
So the others were, what I call social campaigns, which I did as a pro bono. One is for the Office for National Unity and Reconciliation, where I was on the board with President CBK on that, and so I had to do it on a pro bono basis. And again, this whole thing, people always thought, oh, I am a Sinhala Buddhist, or I am a Tamil, or I am a Muslim. So we created a campaign saying, got people to think beyond ethnicity and religion and think as a true Sri Lankan. So we said the campaign was, are you a true Sri Lankan? And we defined what that was, and we got about 36 people, including some of the celebrities doing for free, right? From Kumar Sangakkara, Murali, different young people, older people, the Everest climbers, Johan and Jayanti, and singers, Nalin Pereira, various, Airangani Sera singer, right? Various people of various ages, genders, ethnicities, religions, and they said, yes, this is what I believe in, and it is sort of on the lines of what Kumar said, I think in Lords or whatever, his famous speech, where he said, I am a Buddhist, I am a Christian, I am a follower of Islam, I am a Hindu. Yeah.
That's great. And I think there's something I also remembered when you mentioned, actually today in the morning, the Pro Sport. Can you tell a little bit about the launch?
Yeah, so those were brands that we built from, they did not exist, and the wonderful thing is at that time, there are two brands, in fact, of Hemas that we built from scratch, because the client gave us and say, this is what we want. So the client told us, we don't have a men's brand, a men's brand, can you create it? And so we thought about it, and we said men and sports, right? Men, you can, so we created a sports brand called Pro Sports, right? And it still agrees, it exists, but they have done away with the sports part because they always want to diversify, and sometimes you lose what it originally was and the focus. So as with that, we actually got different sportsmen to compete against each other in their cross disciplines. So we had Sanjay Surya, we had Julian Bowling, the swimming champ, Rohan De Silva, the tennis champ, two Ragarites, the Rooks brothers, and they competed against each other. So Sanat swam against Julian and played tennis against Rohan De Silva and so on, and kicked the rugger ball to see who can do that.
And who won?
And Sanat, he was the fittest actually. He had a lot of stamina. Yeah.
Master blaster anyway. So.
And we did Kumarika.
Okay, so that's the other one. So I think, so before Kumarika, I think I wanted to ask you this, whether is it your style of something, I don't know, this is one of my readings. So I felt like you like to combine two different words together and develop things, like for instance, like
well, I mean, I think Kumarika of course came almost naturally because it was an aloe vera brand, Kumarika. Right? And then if you're doing a shampoo or hair care brand, you relate it to the target audience that uses it and wants to be looking like a princess. So Kumarika was the perfect name at the time. So
Kumarika and Kumari.
Yeah. So Kumarika, and so they held it for, they still have that brand. And Pro Sport, of course, they changed it to Pro. Another brand that we developed for CBL was Revelo, again from scratch. Yeah.
So on the other end now these were about success stories. So anything that you would like to talk about, any failures or anything that you have seen that you should have done it in a different way?
Yeah. If you have strategy, the chances of failing, right? You will succeed to whatever amount, depending on all the marketing factors that come together. Whether you have the right distribution, you have the right pricing, you have this thing. So to me, I would think of the mistakes we made in not winning campaigns. So when you look back in hindsight, you think, oh, why didn't we win that campaign? So I would like, and we had many such mistakes we can learn from. What did we do wrong that we didn't get that campaign? So I think that it was many of those rather than campaigns that we did that were a failure, because we always built on strategy. You can end up being a failure if you don't build on strategy, right? Because if you just do a Ep1, then this thing. Another one that I would regret is there was a challenging campaign. One of the more social and developmental, nationally important campaigns was the corporatization of the postal department, which we did for PERC, right? The Public Enterprise Reform Commission. Because still to this day, unfortunately, the postal department remains a department where it's a burden on the treasury, right? So there was this attempt to turn it into a corporation where they could get investment, right, and become like DHL or whatever it is,
Should have.
Yeah, should have.
Like Singapore Post.
Yeah, exactly. So we did a campaign, and that was very challenging because there were 22,000 workers and 19 unions who were saying over our dead bodies at that time. But we did a campaign, we talked to people, we talked over the heads of the unions, we gave a hotline and and train people in English, Sinhala and Tamil to answer FAQs. What will happen to my pension? What will happen to me if it becomes a corporation? To explain that, right? And we got everybody's views. It had a lot of PR components. We did a Rizkan kind of show where a journalist was asking the director general of the, you know, and yeah. So we did a lot of not just commercials, a lot of documentaries, interviews, and so on. But unfortunately, when the bill was in Parliament, they called elections.
That's a failure.
You know, so after all that work,
nothing worked out.
And now it's
the saddest part, like you have done
everything, and unfortunately timing was bad, and so it still remains a department. So I hope they will you know,
maybe
turn some of these SOEs into at least corporations that are making, you know, are profitable and not loss making, you know.
Yes, I think that also connects with my next question, where like one of the biggest insecurity in like not only in Sri Lanka but in general in any industry, they are reluctant to new things like technology and so on and so forth. So how technology was predicted in early 2000?
Well, in early 2000, as you will remember, internet was early days. Social media had not come on stream because Facebook and all came I think 2003, 4, 5 somewhere there. And I started talking about, I had got involved in environment. I had gone to Seattle and sat with Al Gore. He had a workshop. He brought people from all over the world to talk about environmental activism. So I went and I got sort of cloaked in that, and I came, and then I started talking about brands being not just selling commercial goods, but thinking about the environment, being good to the environment, being responsible to the environment, being responsible to society, and being responsible to citizen consumers. We always think of consumers, so I don't like that word because you're thinking all the time they are consuming. But you have to know that a consumer is also a citizen. They think as a citizen and vote as a citizen. So that's where I started in the early 2000s, asking brands to consider, you know, beyond the commercial aspects of selling brands, to being responsible and responsive brands that are, you know, thinking about environment, society, and the citizen, you know.
And so I think even even in today's context, there's a big conversation on purpose-driven advertising or purpose-driven marketing, and even I think like we have heard new things basically connected with the purpose. So I think probably, you know, is the same connotation going on still. So now, in fact, now when it comes to today's advertising, so now even last year when Coca-Cola did the first fully AI seasonal campaign, the Christmas campaign, creative community across the world were like having so much of debate on that, you know, like, you know, this is what is going to happen, but they continue this year as well. And a little bit like, you know, lesser negativity this year. So what do you think, in your perspective, this all AI coming into the picture? It's not only on video, but I'm saying overall AI is taking over the advertising and marketing functions. How do you see the future of advertising, Nimal?
No, AI is there, and it's, you know, it's progressing in so many different directions and so on, and it's a very useful tool. I think everybody in every industry, including advertising, should understand how to use it for their own purpose, but it should not, you should not then, it should not substitute for the work that you should be doing. So it's, you know, there is, today if you want, you can create a commercial or create the picture that you want using AI, but that's not what it should be used for, right? So you need to, so you can do a AI based commercial, but if somebody doesn't have that much money and a small brand, maybe they can resort to that, right? But otherwise, the crafting, the using the traditional methods of production, of filming and crafting and writing, all that, you should not, there is no joy in giving that to AI to do.
Just so even I was having this chat with Dileepa some time back. He said, like, if you don't know your subject, you won't be able to put the right prompt into it.
Yeah.
So you should know, like, you need to read, you still need to do your hard job.
Yeah. But even if you do, frankly, no, I would advocate AI-based commercials for small brands that don't have the big budgets to do. But otherwise, I think you should do, that's what advertising is partly about, crafting, no? Crafting and using, I think that will stay, and...
So do you think that, the traditional creativity is still relevant over the technology?
Yes, definitely. For that reason, because you have to think, and it's the creativity, which is because in AI you give a prompt, but here you have to first think the strategy, right? And then, within an agency, we get together and you brainstorm and try, and then you measure against the strategy. Does this work on strategy?
And we argue, we fight.
Yeah.
Then
So you have to justify yourself, and so the traditional advertising will remain. It will not only be advertising. You see, again, advertising, now even when I started my agency in 1993, I positioned it and I made it as a integrated marketing communications. So I brought PR very strongly into the agency, right? I was one of the first PR agencies. So you have to bring PR and social media and everything else, and work not just with 30-second commercials, with documentaries and various forms of other tools which come with which are beyond advertising.
So when did you check out Engage? Last year, right?
Yes.
I don't call it you quit, because anyway, generally people in advertising won't quit. You just check out.
I had founded it in 1993 and I had run it for 32 years. Lately I had stepped back and I had got my CEO Sharon Jayasundara to take over and front with the agencies. So after 32 years, you feel a little tired and wanting to do something, and certainly at my age wanting to, after 50 years of working, wanting to retire, as it were, though I am not totally retired, but but stepped back from what I was doing. So I handed it over for her to run with others, so in the team that we had to look after, and I totally exited the agency, and
you all had a sort of a get together sometime back, right? So how is that culture created?
So it was a fantastic culture where we would work hard and we would play and we would create things for ourselves. In our 25th anniversary, we created something called the Festival of the Future, and we had 34 speakers who spoke on that day on the future of brands, on the future of communications, the future of environment, and the future of society, right? So for each topic we had 8 speakers who spoke on each topic, and they were experts in their own way, giving different things. And the final thing, I interviewed President CBK and Mangala, my brother-in-law. So on the future, what they saw as the future for Sri Lanka.
And he's a good, I would say, a good advocate for advertising, right? He had And he
yeah.
likes.
He's a creative person in his own right, because everybody laughed at it and said he has studied as a fashion designer
Yeah.
in London, one of the famed creative schools. So said,
And
how
he
can
got into TikTok also, like the last couple of days of his life. And one thing, Nimal, now, what do you think now, since you have seen up to like last couple of years of being with so many different types of new, like I would say new generations, like you have worked with Gen Zs, even millennials, all of that. So what do you think, by looking at all of them, now not generations per se, but like looking at advertising agencies point of view, what do you think, what is lacking in people, lacking in new talents, and lacking in the agencies right now?
Well, agencies, I think people have to love what they do, and lot of them do, and lot of the people who worked in our agency also was there for several years, right? Before they would go out, and many of them, I am very proud that they started at our agency,
Yeah.
right? Worked for several years, right, together, and then they have now gone to become executive vice presidents, Harendra, heads of media, Namali, Rizani, head of PR,
So
in
Namali is
other
heading
competitive
agency.
agencies. But they all started
Yeah,
at Bates, what was Bates. So that I have
Chinta and Ravi
yes,
and all that.
many others, and because they loved it, and they loved they used to also come back.
Yeah.
They used to come back and then have a second stint, and eventually when they got a good break, they would say, Nimal, I'd like to move on, and I would say, fantastic, you've already done good service, go ahead and do it. So I think love for and your passion for the job that you're doing, advertising, right? So it's a very satisfying, fun, because it's a creative job, right? Jerry Della Femina said it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on, right? So
And I don't remember who said that, like you simply are getting paid just for thinking.
Yeah,
I don't remember who said it, was Ogilvy or someone.
yeah. So, well, that's what it is. You're paying for your brain, right? Whether it's strategy or creative, you're paying for your brain, and so that's what it is. So AI, I think people should use it rather than let it substitute for your talent, but use it productively. I think still there is a long way to go. Not too many people have used it for the purpose that they can benefit by.
And in terms of like creative, the amount of I would say like the buying, like let's say, how do they really nowadays we get to see that when a client reject a creative, you don't go and defend. So I've heard a story from you also. Will you just how do you really defend your idea?
You have to. If you believe that's what I'm saying. If you believe that what you have done is right and it's not creative, that sort of came from nowhere, then you defend it. I remember a long time ago defending a brand which was originally a Unilever brand, which Maharajas had control over, and then of course when Unilever started being active, they had to give it up. So it was called Pond's Dream Flower, and they changed that into Rebecca Lee Wildflower, right? So I was in the agency at that time at Dialvis when we did that campaign, and a beautiful campaign, with a beautiful girl in a field of wildflowers, which was shot inside Nihal Fernando and Pat Decker's studio, Time Studio, right? So and then I wrote a jingle or song for it, in jazz waltz time. That's the first time I think somebody has used jazz waltz, and what the client was saying, no, you need a punchy one, you need a 4/4 beat punchy one, and I said, no, this is a talcum powder, right? Talcum powder for a woman in a field of wildflowers, so it has to be nice and lilting. And I wrote a 3-page defense and presented it to the client, and finally he agreed to let me record that, and we ran it. Yeah.
And that's effort.
So if you believe in it, you should defend it rather than just give in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And imagine now, if at all, right, while you have already decided to retire advertising, but imagine you are starting advertising now. How are you going to do that?
No, I don't think I would start an agency right now. For the reason that I think the client-agency relationship has really fallen apart. Those days, clients used to think of their agency as a partner and give the agency a brand to look after over a longer period of time, right? So now one of the brands that we did, Hemas, gave us several brands from, the brands that we created, Kumarika and Pro Sport, and then Goya and others, Diva and so on. They have been engaged for the full 32 years.
Yeah,
so that, and they still work, right? But what has happened, and so also with Ceylon biscuits, right? We've helped build their chocolate brands, Ritzbury, and we created Revelo for them, and Summer Porsche and so on. That partnership has lately fallen apart, and clients are happy to call multiple agencies for pitches. So the client is saying, oh, I don't, I'll just pick and choose. So that stewardship, because the agency is no longer there. If you really look at an agency, there are people who stay longer at agencies, therefore have a history of the brand, why they built it, how it came to this position and whatever. But today, a lot of people who come into marketing companies as brand managers, they are through a revolving door. They are there for 3 years and then they've gone somewhere else. So they mess around with the brand without knowing much of its history. So it's really that because of the deterioration of the relationship, of the partnership and the stewardship, that's now gone. So I wouldn't, with that uncertainty, I really wouldn't want to, go, pitch for pitch, So I'd rather, as I've done now, I'd rather sort of approach it through a consultancy, which I have now said, okay, I've set up a consultancy called Engage Goodvocacy, again to consult and tell to brands at a higher level, how to build their brands to be a responsible and responsive brands to the environment, to society, and so on. To be a good brand, advocacy for goodvocacy. So that's the name I coined.
It's again like the same analogy as you said, you're connecting to.
So that's, I'm happy with that, and I've always been a teacher. So I help people to train people or work with people. So I thought that this what I can do now, train people to think clearly, to think creatively, to think, and to have critical thinking, where they think strategically and then creatively.
So isn't it the reason, like now, there has to be a reason why even clients are calling multiple agencies and doing these pitches, is it because that they are not getting the right thing from the existing agencies, or like the creativity what we've been having in the past is not really generating now, the risk-taking creativity, or are these mad thinking?
Yeah, you can think mad so long as you got the direction clear. So that is why I always put that creative cannot be divorced from strategy. So if you got your strategy right, you can, even to a client, you can go and present it and justify it.
Yeah.
Right? But clients want choice.
It has been
Getting
there.
5 choices,
Yeah.
they feel, okay, there are so many agencies, everybody wants a piece.
And now
So
you have AI also. Now you have AI.
So and they will, unfortunately, they will fight with each other to get that piece. And finally, I think the brand suffers. The client also probably suffers in the end, though he thinks he's getting the best from many. I think the client's brand suffers because the client, I think the clients those days that I used to deal with, they were involved from the top. Now they are less involved from the top, and they let the brand managers sort of do whatever they like.
Yeah. So just another thought, like let's say now in that case, would you start a rock band?
No, that's something I did in my younger days.
You can talk about that. That's how you know.
No. I went and played with a Sri Lankan rock band in Iran in the good old days before the Ayatollah came in with the Spitfires. So that's where I ran away from my advertising for about 6 months, and then I said that's enough being professional. But I used to do that. I used to write. I wrote Sri Lanka's first rock opera called Life in 1974. Then I worked with and to produce JC Superstar. Even before it sort of came here, or I think it had just come on Broadway, which I hadn't seen. So we created from a record. So the creativity is not to look at a Broadway production and replicate it, but to improvise from what you have on a vinyl. So that's music is there. I have written other songs and performed in a garden theatre called Brands, Blues and Change Points. It's all about advertising and why people hate advertising. Right? So, it's all about consumerism and because that's something that I have been speaking now. Getting clients to see, yes, as marketers and advertising people, we created consumerism. But we need to now rethink whether in today's context of the planet and so on, we need to rethink something beyond pure consumerism, because consumerism has failed. Yeah.
So the one final thing, there could be youngsters who will get engaged with this particular podcast in future.
Yeah.
So for them, any particular a framework, a simple framework for them to craft and think creatively.
Right.
What did you recommend?
Firstly, they have to figure out that this is the job that they love. They have to really understand about creative and that they are creative people. They can hone their creative skills. And there are skills such as, which are important, critical thinking, because to do strategy you need critical thinking. You need creative thinking, right? And you need to be good communicators, both to sell your work, right? And to do communications is good if you are a communicator yourself, or if you are doing PR or whatever it is. All those things, and of course you have to then be passionate about building brands. So I think now what I can do best is to train and help young people to really understand and do those things.
That's great.
Right?
And Nimal, thank you so much for
Okay.
being a part of our first podcast. So I think lots of valuable things where maybe, whenever you meet certain other people from the industry, they might ask more about certain other things as
Okay.
well. So I think this is how it should be, and
Right.
we need to talk, and then only we get more ideas. So that's it for today, and hopefully we'll be meeting you again with another legend like Nimal, and from either from the advertising industry or someone who is connected to the ad industry. And thank you so much.